Howdy there, folks. Welcome into today's video. Two for me to react to. In this one is a buy one, get one free. First video up for me to react to is this one. This is just the beginning of Nvidia's long-term upside. Very important subject, folks. Not a subject that's getting talked about nearly enough out there, and I think it's something we have to talk about. I see so many people get caught up into what Nvidia is going to report next quarter, worrying about what Nvidia's report next quarter. And I'm like, what about next year? What about the year after? What about the year after? Okay, so looking really forward to getting into that one. And then this one, Ritz-Holt's Josh Brown on why he sold 25% of his Nvidia stake. So I thought we'd watch that one, which is also an important subject to talk about right now, which is taking profits, when to take some profits. And I think Nvidia is a perfect stock because it's so popular. Everybody's talking about it right now. And it's a good one to just kind of see, like, is it worth taking profits? Is it not worth taking profits? Or if you take profits now, are you going to miss out on a ton of upside here? Or are you making the smart decision, right? You know, we've seen certainly some people sell out of completely out of Palantir when it went to $9, $10, $11, right? And certainly in regards to Nvidia, you know, when it went to 150, there was people selling 200, 250, 300, been jumping out of this. Now it's at 400 and people are jumping out. And so it's like at some point in time, when do you pull the cord there and go ahead and cash out? Okay, so appreciate everybody joining me as always. I think we're at 27,000 and like 800 plus subscribers now. We hit a new all-time high. If this channel was a stock price, man, this would be the best stock ever because it would just hit a new high every day. So I appreciate everybody being here as always, and let's get into this.
A milestone, an astounding run for a stock that has just simply soared. What now, though, is the question. Is it time to take and protect some profits? Let's ask Requisite Capital's Bryn Talkington, who owns the stock, also a CNBC contributor. Bryn, welcome. It's nice to see you. How are you thinking about this? Are you tempted to take some chips off the table, and have you?
I have not. I have it positioned appropriately. And I think that, as I said last week, Nvidia was under-owned going into earnings. And boy, did we see how under-owned it was. Because you have just seen such a massive pile-in of investors who haven't owned Nvidia, which has been a publicly traded company for 23 years. So I do think, though, the move in general has gone so fast. And I think it's gotten too fast, too quick, because, you know, Jensen said, Scott, on the call that he thinks over the next 10 years, not over the next 2, he thinks that data centers essentially are going to be recycled and reclaimed using accelerated computing. But that's 10 years out. And I think ChatGPT captured all of our imaginations of what AI could do. It clearly captured Nvidia's market cap. But I think how companies monetize, how much double ordering was done with Nvidia, we just won't know. And so I do think the frenzy will happen. But once again, as we know, frenzies last way longer than all of us ever expect.
I just love...
So, a lot there. Main point I want to make, okay, is kind of what do I see happening with Nvidia stock in the shorter term, meaning the next couple months. I could definitely see Nvidia kind of chilling out in kind of the 350 to 450 range for the next couple months. A lot of people really want to see Nvidia come in with that number, that $11 billion number, right? And then they want to see the guidance for the next quarter. So it's kind of gotten that respect of what they guided for, but now people are kind of, it feels to me like people are kind of waiting now and they really want to see like what happens with these next numbers. And so that's why I could see Nvidia kind of chilling 350 to 450. If they come in with those numbers, and let's say they have disappointing guidance, then you'll see the stock obviously fall dramatically. If they come in and they come in with another $11 billion number, or even a greater than $11 billion guidance number for next quarter, that changes the game. Everybody that thinks like, oh, this is just a one-quarter thing, or Nvidia is making up lies, and they're not going to point, because I've heard bears say this, that have been bearish on Nvidia for months and months now, say, oh, they're just making this up, and it's just a lie, and, you know, it's just like, okay, that's interesting standpoint, that you just think they're going to, you know, make up a lie, and they're really going to do $8 billion, and when they said they're going to do $11 billion for this upcoming quarter. But nonetheless, folks, you know, I think next quarter is going to be what drives the stock either to 500 plus or back under 350.
To try and get into the mind of an investor, I think our viewers would really like to channel the same. I want you to listen to what Josh Brown, a longtime Nvidia investor, told us today on Halftime Report as he said he trimmed a quarter of his position. Listen.
Basically, you have...
Hey, don't go spoiling our next clip now. What is this about?
Arguably the best stock in the world, but it's 46% above its 50-day moving average. That's the 6th highest reading ever. And you just have to say to yourself, how likely is it for there to be strong gains in the very short term from here? It's not impossible, but the likelihood of a reversal grows.
So explain to me, give me the psyche of somebody who loves the stock while at the same time suggesting, yeah, there's a bubble. How can one exist at the same time?
It's about managing your position, right? As I said in the beginning. So he still has 75% of the position. He sold 25. And so I think that long-term investors think that way just because it's so amazing what's happened. But if you look back, since Nvidia has been a publicly traded company, there have been 8 years where it's had a return of over 100%. And in fact, in 2001 and 2016, the stock was up 300 and 216% respectively. So we're still not even at those levels yet. And so I think this is what's hard to be a long-term investor in a company, is you have to know how to size the position, because so few people get that long-term return of stocks because they just can't believe it's going to continue to go on.
Yeah, let's bring in Stacey.
It's a damn hard thing to do, because at the end of the day, what you need to be able to do to get on an Nvidia train in the first place, right? And then stay on the train, is you've got to understand exactly what's going on with Nvidia, their product, what makes them special. But you know what else you have to be able to do? You have to be able to run long-term projections on Nvidia. What is this company doing for revenues 3 years out from now, 5 years out from now, net income? And not just be throwing numbers out there, but be able to have estimated guesses on, this is why I believe they're going to be at this number, because I believe they're going to be selling this many chips is going to need to be needed. They're going to be able to get this average selling price because their competitive pressure is not going to be as immense. You have to be able to run into this full bull thesis. It's a very difficult thing to do. Okay, I can tell you there's probably, in my opinion, there's less than 100,000 people on this planet that can do that, in my personal opinion. Okay, I'm one of them, but there's less than 100,000. Actually, probably less than 10,000, and it's very difficult. It's a challenge, and sometimes you're still going to get it wrong. Even if you know how to do that, you still are going to get it wrong sometimes. And that's one of the tough things about this game is even when you know how to do that, and you know how to put a full case together, and then you know how to put all the numbers together, sometimes you're still going to be wrong on that, right? And so that's the other feeling people have to fight when it comes to something like Nvidia, is that feeling of well, maybe I'm wrong. Because everybody is wrong from time to time. And so you could have Nvidia doing, let's say, $100 billion in revenue 3 years from now. But then there's that feeling, and let's say you have them doing, $40 billion of net income. Let's say that's your number, right? Then the feeling of am I right about this? Or am I way over fabricating this? And they're not going to be able to hit that number. That feeling runs through you, and sometimes you feel man, you know what? I don't really know. I'm starting to feel unsure of myself. Let me just take a profit.
On now of Bernstein's one of the top chip analysts on the street to join the conversation, and we've been with you, Stacey, every step of the way here, before earnings, after earnings, and now we'll take the pulse of this whole thing yet again. Is the pulse speeding too fast? Do we need to slow things down?
Look, yeah, so there's going to be a controversy right now. The significant upside we're seeing right now, is that I think we're kind of getting at, is it a pull forward from next year, or is it not? I don't think we know yet. That being said, I think it's definitely not a pull forward over the next few quarters. They're clearly having upside to demand. They're clearly having upside to demand in the second half. They just guided $11 billion for Q2. Knowing Nvidia, they probably think they can beat that number. I would not be surprised to see numbers continue to go up in the near to medium term. And then look, even if we get a pull forward or digestion, it will undoubtedly happen at some point. This is a company, their business does have digestion cycles. We've seen them before. We will see it again. But I think it's hard to argue that the opportunity in front of them is not large and that we are not early. We are clearly early. This has just begun. I think the opportunity is enormous. I think we are at a paradigm shift in terms of how data centers and other things are architected. And if you're looking out 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I remain convinced that the upside is still considerably much more in front of us than it is behind us. Over the next year, or into next year, I guess we can worry about next year when we get into next year. But at least the next several quarters, my guess is numbers go higher, right? Not lower.
Boom. That guy just hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I've been preaching in regards to this whole Nvidia situation, right? This is likely an early days situation, right? And when you have a new big major shift in some sort of GPU, some sort of chipset. It can't even be in something smartphone related. In any of that space, it's usually a multi-year move. And you can look back at companies like I own personally. Look back at Cirrus Logic over time. Ticker symbol CRUS on that one, CRUS. Look at a company like I own Skyworks Solutions, SWKS, right? And you look at those companies and look at how their revenues went up year after year after year, starting in the smartphone revolution, and how those revenues just skyrocket over that next decade, right? And so when it comes to something like Nvidia, I think something that's very important that you have to consider is that this is literally the first inning of this game. They just entered this game, and this is a long game to be played out here where their revenues could skyrocket year after year after year for 3, 5, 7, 10 years. And something you have to consider out there. I think next quarter and their guidance is going to be very telling to like, this is for real, or people saying, no, it was just a little too much excitement in one quarter. And that's what everybody's trying to figure out right now, right? But you have to consider that this game is very early, and that Nvidia has a real opportunity to be a multi-trillion-dollar market cap and put up the sort of net income numbers that will be shocking, that people are, can't even fathom and believe when they see them.
Use this gain to take some profits of some degree. You've sold a quarter of your position, is what you told our producers. Is that correct?
Yeah, this morning it gapped higher, and I took the opportunity to just take something off the table because, man, this is one for the ages, and I didn't want to sit here in a reversal and not have done something.
Refresh.
So he feels like he had to do something, right? If I was his stock market psychologist, I would say that was a mistake. If you just are making a decision because you feel like you have to do something, it's a mistake. If you want to run your numbers and your projections on Nvidia and say, you know what, this company's, it's too highly valued now, and I can understand selling 25% of your stake, right? But at the end of the day, if you're running your numbers and you believe Nvidia is going to get to this number, and you're selling your position because you feel like you have to do something, which was his justification he just said there, it's always a mistake. Even when it's not a mistake in terms of the dollar amount, it's always a mistake long term, because then you just keep that feeling going. Like, I feel like I have to do something. And that makes you trade more often, especially if you're a longer term investor. You feel like you have to trade more often because I have to do something. I have to buy something. I have to sell something. I have to do something, right? It's not a healthy feeling, folks, okay? Those are the type of feelings you got to fight to the biggest extent, because then, and I've had those feelings as well, and I've acted on those feelings in the past and sold stocks at bad prices because I felt like I had to do something. I'm like, oh, this stock's up 40%, 100%, whatever. And at the end of the day, you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out, where's this company going? Are they executing much better than I anticipated? And if you're an Nvidia shareholder, right, you have to look at this company. You have to say, are they executing worse or better than I thought? Well, they just beat analyst expectations for this past quarter. And guess what? They just beat their guidance by 50-something% in terms of percentage points. Analysts had them growing next quarter at 6%. Company says we're going to grow 60+%. It's so shocking, right? So clearly something's going on with the company that's far better than even the most bullish bulls foresaw. These are the things you got to take into account.
Our memories, if you could, on how long you've owned this stock. And you remember when you first bought it and what the first price you paid for it was?
I don't remember the exact price, but it's like I bought it in the summer of 2015, and I remember coming on the show, we were in New Jersey, and said something to the effect, Netflix was struggling at that time, and I said maybe we ought to replace the N with Nvidia. And, I've believed in the stock ever since then, and it's thousands of percentage points, obviously. I read this weekend that Nvidia, over the last 10 years, prior to my getting involved, was the number one performing stock, up 10,000%. So this is like, just, you could live your whole life and never see a stock do what Nvidia has just done ever again. And
so first off, congrats to Josh Brown. He found his Michael Jordan. He found his Tom Brady. He found his Usain Bolt. And now he's going to put his Michael Jordan and trade it out for what? What are we trading this out for now? That's another question you got to ask yourself. This stock's made this man a lot of money, right? And now you got to look at this and you got to say, well, what am I trading this for, right? And this is something I had to go through with Tesla, right? Tesla made me so much money, it's disgusting. And I sold a lot of shares of Tesla. And it was definitely a right decision at the time because obviously Tesla stock price fell quite a bit. But where did I put a lot of that money? Into a lot of companies that were not Tesla. Tesla was my Michael Jordan. And I sold a lot of shares to dump it into stocks that were surely not my Michael Jordans. Anything but, right? And so now Josh Brown, where's he going to put that money? You're going to put it in oil and gas stocks? You're going to put it in some consumer staples? You know, where are you going to put that money? And that's the tough part, man. And then sometimes you're going to find the next Michael Jordan, but does he have the next Michael Jordan? I'm not, you know, I don't know if he has that sort of confidence, right? It's another big problem. And that's why a lot of times the best thing is just holding it. Because now he's got 25% of that Nvidia money, however much that is. And now he's going to put that somewhere. Is it going to be better than Nvidia?
And we may not. So it's been a historic run. But I want to talk about some of the shorter term dynamics here because I'm still a believer in Nvidia. I still think they are the best positioned technology company in the world for what's to come. But this stock hit an 86 RSI this morning. It was at an 83 on Friday. And I remember, and I think we have this chart, or I'm not sure if we were able to make it, but I just remember saying to myself, when was the last time Nvidia was this overbought? I mean, this is a stock that's rallied before. And it turns out you have to go back to November of 2021, which was the peak of the tech bubble, where it traded at 89 RSI. If you go back to 2011, it hit 91. That was the highest ever. And Nvidia's max RSI during the dot-com bubble a generation ago was 81. So you're talking about just a historic level of being overbought. And if you look at the 3-month, 6-month, and 1-year return after that 2011 peak in relative strength, it was negative 2%, negative 40%, and negative 42%. If you look at the November 2021, when RSI peaked last time, the 3-6 and 1-year return was plus 3%, minus 37%, and minus 52%. So now basically you have arguably the best stock in the world, but it's 46% above its 50-day moving average. That's the 6th highest reading ever. And you just have to say to yourself, how likely is it for there to be strong gains in the very short term from here? It's not impossible, but the likelihood of a reversal grows.
So the tough thing is, once again, so that's a short-term time in the market thing, in trying to time in and out of your Michael Jordan stock, right? It's like selling Michael Jordan after you played 3 seasons or something like that, or won 3 championships. And so, you know, that's a tough game, man. In terms of I'm going to get out and then I'm going to get back in. Is he really going to get back in? What price is that? 380, 400, 415, 450? Like that's a big question. And you know, another thing my mind was going to, he mentioned all those times in the past that the RSI was super high. And all I could think is, I wish everybody watching this video right now, I bet you wish you were buying this stock when its RSI was 70, 80, 90. All those times, I bet you wish you were buying in 2011. And I bet you wish you were buying in all those other time periods he mentioned there. Even in the 2021, you'd still be up. Even at the peak of the market frenzy, craziness in the market, right? Of 2021, even then you would still be up. Like, think about that for a moment. Gosh, that's pretty special to think about there, right? So at the end of the day, all these stocks, and you can look at all these technicals and all this stuff, but it always comes back to the fundamentals. It always has come back to the fundamentals, and it will continue to come back to the fundamentals. Nvidia could be extremely overvalued or undervalued right now. It could be extremely undervalued right now. This company could be at a real forward P right now of 35 or 40. And for a company that's expected all of a sudden to grow 60% revenues, I can tell you that's very undervalued.
And so I just want to do what I think is prudent, take some risk off the table, obviously taking off my initial investment entirely, and, you know, just be in a situation where if there is that reversal, I'm not as exposed as I was last week.
Got you. What obviously so interesting about, you know, the current state of the market, the current state of buying into AI-related stocks, and then watching Nvidia, Weiss, which was $300 in the moments before it reported earnings, which, you know, we forget was what, 10 days ago? Not even, it feels like.
No,
where
less.
there's a bit of a seller in Josh in terms of taking some profits. You're a new buyer.
Yep.
On the close last Thursday, is that right?
Yep.
Take us through that thought process, because that is as intriguing to me as Josh's taking some profits is.
Well, clearly, I don't think there's ever been a more momentum-driven market than what we're in right now. And that momentum
Short it.
is confined, by and large, to 7 companies,
1 month outputs.
of which Nvidia, as Josh points out, is the number one in all of that. So I thought that, look, I was hoping stock would miss and collapse, and then I'd take a fresh look at it for a full position rather than a trading position, which is what I put on. So, you know, Scott, I'd like to tell you I was waiting for it to hit a valuation of 200 times earnings, but that's not it. It was purely playing momentum. I added to it Friday morning before the market opened, and I'm not going to be here for a long time.
What? What are we talking about? Playing it for momentum? What are we talking about, man? Come on. Goodness. I subject myself to this pain. Oh man, do I subject myself to this pain. I appreciate everybody joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here, folks. Yeah. Man, a lot of people are lost in the market. Like, I just look out there, I'm just like, damn, man. Like, wow. Jeez. And you know, these people had the audacity to make fun of the retail crowd. And I just listen to these people's justifications on selling stocks and buying stocks. I just sit back and laugh. That's all I can do. That's all I can do, man. Sit back and laugh, because it is quite entertaining. I appreciate everybody joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here, folks. Oh, man. See you on the next one. Thanks for being subscribed, and have a great day.